Single dad's twins saw a woman being ignored at the grocery store. What they did next left everyone in tears. The overhead lights at Save Mart gave everything a tired, washed-out look on Thursday afternoons. Daniel Martinez moved his cart slowly down the cereal aisle, one hand on the handle, the other rubbing the back of his neck. His warehouse shift had ended 2 hours ago, but his shoulders still ached. Emma walked on his left, her purple shirt already untucked from lunch. Lily stayed close on his right in her pink one, humming something under her breath. Both girls had their mothers' eyes, that dark brown, that used to catch the light just right. Daniel tried not to think about that too much while he was standing in the middle of Save Mart trying to remember if they needed butter. "Can we get the one with the bear on the box?" Emma asked, pointing up at the colorful cereals. Daniel checked the price tag, did the math in his head. "How about the store brand this time, kiddo?" "Same stuff, different box." Emma's face fell for just a second, but she nodded. 6 years old and already learning about budgets. That wasn't something Sarah would have wanted for them, but here they were. Lily had stopped walking. She stood frozen, staring down the aisle toward the pasta section. Daniel followed her gaze and saw a woman standing alone by the shelves. Blonde hair, grey sweater, maybe 32 or 33. The right side of her face carried bruises, dark purple along the cheekbone, yellowing near the temple, a split lip that looked a few days old. An elderly couple approached from the opposite direction. The husband saw the woman first and touched his wife's elbow. They both looked away quickly, moving past her like she wasn't there. A younger guy in a dress shirt and tie came down the aisle next, glanced up, saw her face, and turned his cart around without getting what he'd come for. The woman didn't react. She just stood there, hand hovering near a box of spaghetti, not really looking at anything. "Daddy," Lily whispered, tugging his hand. Why won't anyone look at her? Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. He'd seen this before, people getting uncomfortable. Around pain they didn't understand. Around situations that asked something of them they didn't know how to give. He knelt down between his daughters, bringing himself to their eye level. His knees cracked a little. 42 felt older some days than others. "Sometimes," he said, keeping his voice low, "people see someone who's hurting and they don't know what to say. So they pretend they don't see anything at all." "But she's right there," Emma said, confused. "I know, baby." "That's mean," Lily said, her eyebrows drawing together the way they did when she was working something out. "Yeah," Daniel agreed. "It kind of is." Before he could stand up, Lily had already let go of his hand and started walking toward the woman. Emma hesitated, looked at Daniel, then followed her sister. Daniel's stomach dropped. Every protective instinct he had screamed at him to stop them. Pull them back, keep them safe. You didn't know people. You didn't know what they might do. What kind of situation they were in. Whether approaching them was safe. But he also knew his daughters. Knew what Sarah had taught them before the cancer took her. Knew they'd been raised to see people, not look past them. So he followed, staying a few steps behind, close enough to intervene if he needed to. The woman noticed the girls coming and her whole body tensed. She touched her face instinctively, as if she could hide the bruises. Took a small step backward, her shoulders hunching. "Hi," Lily said when she got close enough. The woman blinked down at her, clearly caught off guard. "Hello," she managed. Her voice was rough, like she hadn't used it in a while. There was a long, awkward pause. Emma shifted from one foot to the other, suddenly seeming less certain about this idea. "I like your sweater," Emma finally said. "Gray's nice." It was such a random, 6-year-old thing to say that Daniel almost smiled despite the tension in his shoulders. The woman looked down at her sweater like she'd forgotten what she was wearing. "Thank you," she whispered. Another silence. The woman's eyes started to glisten. Daniel stepped closer, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening, his hands visible. "Sorry," he said gently. "They're still learning about personal space." The woman shook her head quickly. "No, it's..." They're fine. She took a shaky breath, wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. They're sweet. Say goodbye, girls, Daniel said softly, starting to guide them away. He could see this was too much for her, that she needed space. That whatever kindness his daughters had meant to offer was overwhelming rather than helping. Okay, Lily said, sounding disappointed. They made it maybe 3 steps before the woman spoke again. Wait. Daniel turned back. She was crying now, tears running down her cheeks, but trying to keep it quiet, keep it together. Thank you, she said, her voice breaking on the words. For not. For just. She couldn't finish. Daniel nodded slowly. You take care of yourself, okay? She nodded back, covering her mouth with her hand like she was trying to hold something in. They finished their shopping in silence. The girls seemed subdued, sensing they'd touched something bigger than they understood. At the checkout, Daniel loaded groceries onto the belt while Emma and Lily sat in the kid seats of the cart, swinging their legs. He found himself glancing back toward the store, wondering if the woman was okay, if she had someone, if she had anywhere safe to go. The cashier handed him his receipt. Have a good day, she said automatically. You too, Daniel replied, just as automatically. In the parking lot, loading bags into his old Nissan, he saw the woman again. She was standing by a beat-up Honda Civic, loading her few items into the trunk. A single bag. Daniel buckled the girls into their car seats, started the engine, and sat there for a minute with his hands on the wheel. He thought about Sarah, about the last few months when she'd been so sick, when people at the grocery store had stared at her thinning hair, her gaunt face, her slow movements, how some had looked away uncomfortably, how a few had offered small kindnesses, a smile, a door held open, a bless you, honey from an elderly woman that had made Sarah cry in the car afterward. He thought about how invisible pain could feel when nobody acknowledged it. On impulse, he dug through his glove compartment and found an old receipt and a pen that barely worked. He wrote carefully, Clara's Place Women's Shelter, and then the phone number he'd seen on a flyer at the community center last month. Below that, you deserve help. You deserve to be safe. He tore off the bottom of the receipt where his own purchases were listed. Stay here, he told the girls. I'll be right back. Don't unbuckle. Okay, Daddy, they said together. He walked across the parking lot, his heart beating harder than it should for such a simple thing. The woman was sitting in her driver's seat now, door still open, staring at nothing. She looked up when his shadow fell across her, and her whole body went rigid. Fear flashed across her face. Daniel stopped immediately, holding up both hands, staying well back from her car. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I don't mean to scare you. I just wanted to give you something. She didn't say anything, but she didn't close the door either. If you need it, Daniel said, taking 2 steps closer, slowly. No pressure. He held out the piece of receipt paper. She stared at it like it might bite her. I'm just going to set it here on your hood, Daniel said. You don't have to take it, but it's there if you want it. He placed it under her windshield wiper, took 3 steps back, and walked away without looking to see if she'd take it. His hands were shaking slightly when he got back to his car. Emma and Lily watched him with wide eyes. Did you help her? Emma asked as he pulled out of the parking spot. Daniel checked his rearview mirror. The woman was still sitting there, door open, staring at the piece of paper on her windshield. I don't know, honey, he said honestly. Maybe. Maybe not. Will she be okay? Lily asked. I really don't know. But you tried, Emma said. Yeah, Daniel agreed. I tried. That night, after dinner and baths and bedtime stories, Daniel sat alone in his living room in the dark. The house was too quiet, the way it always was after the girls went to sleep. He thought about the woman in the parking lot, wondered if she'd thrown the paper away, wondered if she was safe tonight. He'd never know. He'd have to be okay with that. 2 months later, Daniel was at the community center picking up the girls from their Saturday swimming lesson when he saw a flyer on the bulletin board, volunteers needed at Clara's place. He stood there for a long moment, reading it. The girls came running out, hair still damp, chattering about who could hold their breath longer underwater. Daniel took one of the tear-off tabs from the bottom of the flyer and put it in his wallet. 3 weeks after that, he started volunteering. Just once a week, Wednesday evenings when Sarah's mother could watch. Emma and Lily. Nothing dramatic, sorting donated clothes mostly. Fixing a broken shelf once. Moving furniture when they rearranged the common room. He never asked about specific residents. Never looked for the woman from the parking lot. The staff wouldn't have told him anyway. Privacy was everything there. But sometimes, carrying boxes of donations through the hallways, he'd see women sitting in the common area. Young ones, older ones. Some with visible bruises. Some without. All of them looking tired in a way that went deeper than lack of sleep. He'd nod politely if they made eye contact. Otherwise, he kept his head down and did his work. 4 months into volunteering. On a Wednesday evening in late September, Daniel was in the storage room organizing winter coats by size when Maria, one of the counselors, poked her head in. "Daniel, someone's asking for you." He looked up, confused. "For me? Says she knows you. Just wants to say hello, if you have a minute." Daniel followed her out to the common room, wiping dust off his hands. A woman stood near the windows, arms crossed, looking nervous. It took him a moment to recognize her without the bruises. Her hair was shorter, lighter. But it was her. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi," Daniel replied. They stood there awkwardly for a moment. "I'm Rachel," she said. We never actually introduced ourselves. Daniel. "I know. Maria told me you volunteer here." She took a breath. "I saw you a few weeks ago, carrying those boxes. I wasn't sure it was you at first." Daniel waited, not sure what to say. "I kept that paper you gave me," Rachel said. "The one from the parking lot. I carried it around in my purse for almost 3 weeks. I don't know how many times I picked up the phone before I actually called. I'm glad you called," Daniel said simply. "I've been here 4 months now," she continued. "I got a job at a coffee shop. Part-time, but it's something. She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I'm working on things. That's good. That's really good." Rachel nodded, looking down at her hands. "I just wanted to thank you. You and your daughters. You were the first people in a really long time who looked at me like I was just a person. Not something broken. Not something to be afraid of. Just a person." Daniel's throat felt tight. "You didn't need to thank me. "I know," Rachel said. "But I wanted to." They talked for a few more minutes. Careful, surface things. The weather. How the shelter had helped her. Nothing too deep, too personal. Daniel mentioned the twins were doing well in school. Rachel said she was thinking about taking a class at the community college. Maybe. Would it be weird if I said hello to them sometime? Rachel asked hesitantly. "Your daughters. If I saw them around. I'd understand if That'd be fine," Daniel said. "They'd probably like that." Rachel smiled a little. "Okay. Good." When Daniel left that night, he sat in his car for a long time before starting the engine. He thought about Sarah, about how she'd taught their daughters to be kind even when it was uncomfortable, even when it would have been easier to look away. He thought about how you couldn't save people, how you could only offer small things, a moment of acknowledgement, a phone number, a little bit of hope, and trust that maybe it would land where it needed to. Sometimes it did. Sometimes it didn't. Either way, you still had to try. Months passed. Daniel kept volunteering. He'd see Rachel occasionally at the shelter, and they'd exchange friendly hellos, brief updates. She moved to full-time at the coffee shop. She started a class. She got her own apartment eventually. Maria mentioned it in passing one evening. Sounding proud. The twins grew. Lost more teeth. Started first grade. Asked fewer questions about their mother, which somehow hurt more than when they'd asked constantly. Life kept moving forward the way it does, whether you're ready or not. One Saturday afternoon, almost 2 years after that day in the grocery store, Daniel took Emma and Lily to the public library. They scattered immediately toward the children's section while he wandered toward the new releases. Mr. Martinez. He turned. Rachel stood there in a library employee vest, holding an armful of books to be reshelved. Her face looked different, fuller, healthier. Her eyes looked clearer. "Rachel," he said, genuinely surprised. "You work here?" "6 months now," she said, smiling. "Better than the coffee shop. Quieter." "That's wonderful." She glanced toward the children's section where Emma and Lily were pulling picture books off the shelf. "They've gotten so big." "Too big," Daniel agreed. "They're reading chapter books now." "Well, trying to." Rachel laughed softly. "That's great." There was a comfortable pause. Not awkward, just quiet. "I'm doing okay," Rachel said, as if he'd asked. "Some days are better than others. But I'm okay." Daniel nodded. "I'm glad." "I wanted to tell you something," she said, shifting the books in her arms. "That day, in the parking lot, when you gave me that number, I was coming from the pharmacy. I'd picked up sleeping pills. I wasn't planning to wake up the next morning." Daniel felt his breath catch. "And then your daughters talked to me like I mattered," Rachel continued, her voice steady but quiet. "And then you gave me that paper. And I kept thinking about it. About them. About how maybe if 2 little girls could see me as worth talking to, maybe I was worth something after all." She adjusted the books again, not quite. Meeting his eyes. "I'm not saying you saved my life or anything dramatic like that," she said. "I did the work. I made the calls. I showed up every day even when I didn't want to. But that moment, it planted something. And I wanted you to know that it mattered." Daniel's throat felt too tight to speak for a moment. "I'm really glad you're okay," he finally managed. Rachel smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached her eyes. "Me too." She had to get back to work. He had to find his daughters before they pulled every book off the shelves. They said goodbye with the easy friendliness of people who'd shared something important once and carried it quietly forward. That night, tucking Emma into bed, she asked, "Wasn't that the lady from the store? The one from a long time ago?" Daniel pulled her blanket up to her chin. "Yeah, that was her." "She looked happy," Emma observed. "I think she's doing better," Daniel agreed. "Good," Emma said, yawning. "I'm glad we talked to her that day." "Me too, kiddo." In the doorway, turning out the light, Daniel paused and looked back at his daughters, Emma already half asleep. Lily curled up with a stuffed rabbit in the bed across the room. Sarah would have been proud of them, of the people they were becoming, of the kindness they carried into the world without even thinking about it. That was enough. That was everything. Well, friends, that's the story for today. If it spoke to you in some way, I'd love if you could hit that like button and maybe share it with someone who needs a reminder that small acts of kindness matter. Subscribe if you'd like to hear more stories like this one. And down in the comments, I'd really like to know, have you ever been on either end of a moment like this? When someone saw you when you needed to be seen? Or when you reached out to someone even though it felt awkward? Let me know. I read every comment. Take care of yourselves, and take care of each other out there.